It's Wednesday. That means it's time for another Business Analysis Live. My name is Susan Moore. I'm the Community Engagement Manager at IIBA.
And my name is Scott Bennett. I'm the Manager of Business Analysis here at the International Institute of Business Analysis. Thank you for joining us live today. We've got a really exciting topic lined up. Susan, we had an opportunity to speak at the BBC conference about AI and business analysis. That was way back in May.
Way back in May.
Things are moving very fast.
Yeah, it's, in some ways, that talk is almost out of date at this point. The dance, I think, is the keeper. That's what Fabricio told me. But the content itself, AI has moved so much in the last year.
Yeah, so our topic today is AI for business analysis. And we've been working with our guests that will be joining us to understand more about AI. And they've done a lot of research. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to Vincent Marabelli. Welcome, Vince.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Susan. I absolutely thrilled to be joining you. I've been on the other side for so long. Now I get to be behind the scenes and be on the show. So this is awesome. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here because I know, listen, we're going to try to contain ourselves to just an AI topic. But really, folks, this conversation could go anywhere today. So stay tuned.
Yes, and we are live. So if you've got questions, please put them in there. We're going to chat a little bit with Vince, and then we will get to your questions. So whether you're watching us from YouTube or LinkedIn, put your chat in there, and we will follow up those comments and pop them up on the screen.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I actually want to share the first comment because Rachel knows today this is a hot topic. So hey, Rachel, you got it. It's AI is a hot topic for us business analysis professionals.
Yes, and congrats on your CBAP certification, Rachel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, Vince, you've spent a lot of time doing research on AI for business analysis. You've just put together a report called Getting Started with AI in Requirements Management. Before we get into that, tell us what inspired you to do this research.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the inspiration for the research was actually, believe it or not, predates ChatGPT, which was that it was that moment that everyone got really excited about AI. AI has existed forever, but ChatGPT, when it launched would have been about November of 2022, really captured the attention of the world. And because all of a sudden we had accessible AI, right? AI has existed for years, but it was always this thing sort of that was under the hood. And now all of a sudden it was in the public domain and anybody could use it. So I had started proposing that research and starting to look into it. And, I started with a hypothesis of what are the best tools, what are the best ways that BAs can use AI? And the more I was talking to folks, it sort of dawned on me that, we're still so early. We're still in the infancy of accessible AI that it wasn't a matter of, how do they use it? It was, how do you get started? Because there was a level of apprehension, a level of nervousness. People were using it to write silly poems and limericks and those funny use cases. But how could you actually use it as part of, the work that we do as BAs to augment our skill, to make us better, to make us more efficient and effective and productive, but really just to make us better at what we do rather.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting topic because we've got people that are aspiring to do business analysis work. We've got people in their first 2 years of career, people that are veterans, been doing it for a long time. How would AI help those people in their stage of their career? Are there some dangers? Are there some really good, strong productivity tools?
Yeah, so there are some great tools, and I'm not gonna co-sign any particular tool. I've already talked about ChatGPT, but there's other tools. Right, and finding the right tool for you is a step in the process. I would say, and I actually have to credit a good friend and colleague, Christina Lovelock, for pointing this out to me. What she said was, in that the early part of your career, you really do need to make mistakes. And so AI, while it can be helpful, it's actually better to do that, let's call it grunt work, so they can learn what works. And actually, Scott, this was a springboard conversation based on your comment in the research around AI is effectively an intern, right? Like you can ask it to do things, but when it returns the results, you need to check it. And so Tina rightfully pointed out, that's how BAs learn. So I would say if you're in your first year, you're still very new, not that you should avoid AI. I don't want to suggest that, but you have learning to do about the tactical, on the ground business analysis function.
Right. Yeah.
Beyond that, I think that's where we start to get into, okay, well now let's accelerate so that we can do more.
I think that's a really good point because, as Christina was pointing out, if you don't know the basics, the fundamentals, you can't figure out where the problems are when you get these responses.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
It's good.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like learning a new game or a new sport, right? Like it's the same idea. You need to learn the fundamentals of. Right now, I'm it might surprise you. I've never learned how to play chess, so I want to learn. I do not expect to be a grandmaster after my first, YouTube video. I need to learn the basics so that I can get better and better and better. Yeah. And I think AI is the same thing.
Well, and I think learning about context, like you've got to be able to know the tools and techniques and understand the context within which to use them. I know that sometimes when we're in webinars and we might be talking about a technique, right? I think we know, because we've been doing business analysis for a while, there may be a technique, but we might have modified it for the way that we work, the audience that we're communicating with and whatever. And if you don't have an opportunity to kind of find your style, check to see what works within the context of the work that you're doing, right? It's meaningless. It's just, I think I've used, so we know Scott is a carpenter, right? And so the measure of his ability to be a good carpenter is not that he knows how to use a hammer, but that he knows the context within which to use that hammer. And when it's not a hammer, but a mallet. So I think, so I agree with you guys. Learning the fundamentals of this and kind of muddling your way through it is really important.
Yeah.
Don't rely on AI to tell you those answers.
100%. One of the things that I wanted to put in the report, but I couldn't. And I think, Scott, you saw an early draft, so you may have caught this slide. But, everyone, when we think of AI, thinks of like Terminator and Skynet, right? It's that doom and gloom. Oh, my God, it's here to take our job. My main thesis in this report is AI is not going to replace business analysts. But a business analyst that knows how to leverage AI will replace a BA that doesn't. So it's not Skynet. I see it as Jarvis from Iron Man. And for those that are joining today, I'm betraying my level of nerdiness and pop culture. But it's Jarvis, right? It's an assistant. I think one of the videos that Fabricio Laguna produced around interacting with AI while he's out playing tennis, that to me is fascinating because it speaks to how you can leverage the technology to improve your overall life, not to be able to work better, but just to have a better life. And it becomes that assistant, right? I'm going to turn over things to it. So I envision, I travel a lot for conferences, for keynotes. I envision a world where I can have a conversation with someone like you, where you say, hey, are you going to come to BBC? And I say, yes, I agree to coming. I'll see you there. And my assistant hears that, knows where it is, and while we're wrapping up our conversation, has booked my hotel, booked my flight because it knows my preferences, and has a car ready for me so that I can, hit end and say, Jarvis, did you catch all that? Yes, sir. I've made all the arrangements. They'll be in your email box shortly. Thank you, Jarvis. Like, we're not there, but that to me is the power of AI.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to have Rosalind in the comments pop in a link to this report. And let's talk a little bit more about what's in the report. So Vince, give people a sense of what they can get out of this report and how they might use it.
Yeah, so one of the things that I really love that drew me to working at Infotech Research Group was that the material is very actionable. So there's a little bit of theory and some conceptual stuff, but for the most part, this is a very actionable blueprint that anyone can download and follow step by step to take you through getting ready to use AI. And you can apply that either as an individual or you can apply it within your organization. It's written specifically for BAs within an organization, but that's not to say that you can't take these same learnings and apply them to yourself. So it takes you through, okay, how do you even know that you are ready as an organization to work with AI? Do you have the right, data structure, data management, data practices in place? Do you have the right governance? Are you prepared for the risks that come with AI? Because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. So there's a bit of an assessment that says, are you ready from an organizational perspective? Once you decide, yeah, I'm ready. Now it's like, okay, well, what are the different use cases that we can apply AI to? And in the report, I've actually identified 14. When I wrote it in July of last year, I had identified 14 different use cases. There are probably more now because this technology is moving at a lightning pace. But it was all things around, improving the drafting of requirements, improving our outputs and our reporting, things like translation, use case creation, test case creation. Digital twins was a really interesting potential use case. Not traditional GenAI, but still in that space. So there were all these different use cases. Now that can become crippling as well, because we've got all these use cases. Where do I go first? And so there's an additional tool in there that helps you prioritize your use cases based on things like utility, feasibility, urgency, and then cost benefit, so that you can actually, it shakes out a list that says, oh, I'm going to get the maximum impact in my organization by starting here, and then here, and then here. So it prioritizes and ranks them so that you can run that first test, that first pilot, and get comfortable. Because that's the barrier that I think needs to be overcome, is getting comfortable working with the technology, so that you can then identify your own use cases and plug that in. So
yeah, and what I loved about the report, Vince, is it's not just a white paper of, hey, this is what we've learned, and it's a bunch of theory and a bunch of examples. It's actually a guide that helps you through the process of getting some results. So congratulations on that. I think it's really well written.
Thank you. Thank you for being that sounding board for me and letting me use the quote from BBC last year. That was I'm eternally grateful. Had the opportunity to interview a bunch of industry.
All righty. So here,
I'm a little scared.
No, never scared. Always fun.
I'm just playing.
Okay. So Damien asked, do you think there's any crossover from business analyst roles to prompt engineering? I know that was one of the very first things that was kind of a repercussion of access to AI, which was, we're going to have a new role and it's going to be called prompt engineering. What have you seen or heard about this?
Yeah, so I would say even my own ability to prompt effectively has developed since the early days of ChatGPT. I've gotten much better, and it means that the output is much better. I look at it very similar to the way that we write requirements. When you are vague and broad, you're going to get an answer, but it's not really going to be super helpful. The more context, the more information, and the more detail that you can give or include in your prompt, the better the outcome. And this is one of the things that I'm planning to talk about in the AI course for LinkedIn Learning is, I can give a prompt like, tell me about trends in business analysis. And I'll get a list, but I'm going to get a much better output if I give detail like, you're a thought leader in the business analysis space. What are some things that you are doing now that others should emulate in the next 5 years or something? Like, I'm going to get much more detail. So do I see a crossover from a BA to a prompt engineer? I foresee a less of a reliance on prompt engineer as a role. And I think it's just going to become a skill that people learn.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we're so used to putting in a Google search, which is just half of a sentence or a few words. It's a change in mindset. And if you think about the analogy of, hey, you're going to someone in finance to update a process. And if you just ask them, should I move this here to here? Mm-hmm. Their head's going to spin because they don't have the context for it. But you say, you know what? We're working through this challenge. We've got a roadblock in the processes. You give them all that background, say, so with that, we're looking at making it more efficient. Would this help? Well, that context is significantly important. And that's what these AI tools need. You need to give them that context and give them direction in terms of what you're looking for.
I have writing prompts that are paragraphs long.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've had to train my model, and I've used ChatGPT significantly. Lately, I've been using Google Gemini, which I found really helpful, and it's finally available in Canada. Formerly called Bard, now called Gemini. But they're paragraphs long. I'm very specific, right? So in that sense, it's like a requirement. Now, to your point about the process there, Scott, imagine, and this is where digital twins are really interesting. I can actually build a digital twin of a manual physical process or a system and envision it. And then I'm able to move and experiment in a digital space and say, well, if I take this step here and remove it, this is the impact. If I take it and move it here, this is the impact. So, I mean, it's used a lot in like smart cities, but it has application in a business process space as well, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Hopefully we answered that question.
I think we did. And actually, I'm looking in the comments because people there are some people that haven't heard that phrase, prompt engineering. And so I think they're kind of interested in what that means. I think of very early on, I got a newsletter that was like the daily prompt, and it would just show you different ways that you could prompt AI. And what I came to understand really quickly is basically you're interviewing. It's like you're interviewing your Chat GPT or whatever the tool is. And if you think about like that's a skill that we as business analysis professionals should have. If you have a conversation with AI, with ChatGPT, you can, and you get much richer answers when you think that way.
I wish I could share my scripts for my course with you, because that's basically what I suggest is like have a conversation, tell the AI tool what works, what doesn't work, but have a conversation with it. You don't have to, and I still do this because you never know when they're going to gain sentience and remember you. But I still, I still include please and thank you in my prompts.
Really?
You don't have to. But I still, hey, could you please return this for me? Thank you very much. Like I still do that. Because you never know, right? Like just in case.
Here's a thought. You know how we have SQL, structured language? What if AI tools where all of a sudden the UI was changed where it said, provide the context, provide this, provide this, provide this. So instead of a prompt engineer, you've actually got a template. You fill out these things, gives you a much higher quality output. I wonder if anyone's working on that.
Interesting. I mean, that's interesting. You're basically treating the prompt as an intake with context. The challenge then I see though is does that enable further conversation, or do you just go back and edit your original field, right? Yeah. But no, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Very interesting.
Let's see. All right. Ooh, some of these are kind of long. Let's see if we can. I know. So this is from Anna. AI is obviously it's a great tool in smart hands, which I think is very true. That should be a credential for BA to be able to assess its responses and process the information it's giving. The same thing with prompt engineering. We better focus on accurate and incentive requests, and it's again about a wide awareness of this field. So I don't know. I'm not sure how I think this is really kind of a comment on what we.
Yeah, I think saying.
So. Yeah. But I think that's true. I think let's go back to something that we said a few minutes ago, which is regardless of if you ask great questions, you can still get bad answers. I mean, yes. These tools can give you bad information with a lot of confidence. So there is that whole piece of like check your work, check its work.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself, because it can hallucinate as well. It can makes up stuff. Right. So you have to be aware of that. I always say with AI, this is not a, hands off the wheel. Like you got this, you are still in control and you need to treat it as such. So, again, you can ask it to do something, but if it returns, and there's been cases where, lawyers have used the output of ChatGPT where it invented legal precedent.
Entire cases,
right?
And case history.
So whose fault is that? It's not the AI's fault. It's your fault, right?
That's right.
So you got to keep your hands on the wheel. You are still the one in control.
Let's see. All right, here's a question for you. I don't know if you can tell us they already want to know when is the course going to be available? I know you said you can't tell, but is there some way that people can be notified?